Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
What's happening out there, guys? Hope everybody's having a great day.
Indeed.
It was a busy one. We had a lot of people started early and just got finished with the day's activity. And there's a lot of things that we're seeing with a lot of people out there. It seems like everybody's going through a real roller coaster ride. The whole globe is. The entire world is going through a real up and down roller coaster ride.
Well, look at these eclipse energies. Even for you and I, it's been crazy between the two eclipses.
It has. And before you get into the news, too, have you guys been waking up in the morning and feel like you went to work?
Exhausted.
Exhausted. I mean, so many people are feeling so tired. So many people are saying that their dreams feel more real, that they used to maybe not be able to remember their dreams. Now they can remember them. And that the dreams are leaving them actually tired and exhausted. It's just interesting. But also, we're hearing from so many people that their intuition has never been better. They're noticing that they're developing their abilities. They're seeing things, seeing orbs, seeing energy bodies, spirits, ghosts, all sorts of things. And this is all part of the times that we're in. And as we've talked about, CIA, FBI studies that showed that in these times, when you have the magnetosphere in decline, psychic abilities, intuition rises. And we have our DNA coming together and overcoming the challenges that have been placed before it. And we even have some studies out there that say DNA doesn't exist now. I saw somebody forward me that saying, well, we don't have DNA, we just have chromosomes.
Right.
I haven't had a chance to look into that yet, but somehow that doesn't ring right. But our DNA is changeable. Very changeable. So when, if you have had 23andMe done, for instance, and you've been told, like Angelina Jolie, for instance, you have a genetic predisposition towards this, I don't buy that that's set in stone. Our DNA is a program that we could rewrite at any time.
It is, and I guess the thing where they used to say we have just junk DNA, that didn't fly very well. So now they've gone to, there's no DNA.
Yeah, right? So here we see something for the first time. Iranian military vessels entered the Atlantic Ocean for the first time ever as the globe is changing. The status quo is changing. There's a lot going on all across in so many different ways. Geopolitically, Earth change, just even the science that we are given is changing. And our history has been changed, that's for sure. 2 Iranian military vessels, the Sahan destroyer and the Makran forward base ship, have sailed into the Atlantic, marking the first time Iran's navy has reached the ocean following a 30-day journey. So, here is perhaps what certain powers that be want as a sign of the times and the changing of the guard as well. We had an interesting conversation today with one of our family members that was not too long ago in the service. And there was in the service this feeling of inevitability of what's going to come. And as we're seeing, there's an awful lot of leaks coming out. We know that there's been in the plans 3 WW''S's for a very long time. Whether or not you believe Albert Pike in 1871 making that famous statement of 3 WWS's. Here we see Russia's Pacific Fleet kicks off large-scale drills, international waters, as ships practice maneuvering far from home. And of course, this comes after the massive NATO drills that involve 26 nations in just a huge, huge war game. And at the same time, we have U.S. generals saying China is hiking military capabilities at a very serious and sustained rate. And, they're viewing this as an increased threat to peace and global stability. And this is General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He told this to the Senate Armed Services Committee. So it's very, very high level. Obviously, as high as you get in our services, the United States has put countering China at the heart of its national security policy for several years now, with both countries at loggerheads over issues from Taiwan and human rights to Chinese military activities at the disputed South China Sea. Yes, there are storm clouds gathering, and as we've shared, the guides are sharing that the actual direct confrontations, maybe a year away, something in that range.
Yeah, it's always definitely really difficult to say. You cannot put a date on things, but you can, feel the vibration or emotions, and you can give a best guess, and that's what it feels like.
And just as we said that DNA is a program, that program can be rewritten. In traditional Chinese medicine, there's 5 elements, and dis-ease is exactly that. It's dis-ease. It's imbalances that can be corrected. And as opposed to the whole view of just basically giving something a life or death sentence, so to speak, and putting a certain timeline and saying, boom, that's what's going on. Sorry, nothing you could do really much about that. It's not the case. It's not the case at all. And the same thing when we look to Ayurveda and the system that comes out of India. It's all about balancing your doshas, balancing your energies. And this country, this world that we have is completely imbalanced. It's the sign of the times. It's a sign of the sickness that we have from the leadership of this world. And it's so fascinating and interesting to see statements coming out from some leadership. Okay, what comes to my mind was finally calling it like it is.
Yeah, right.
Finally just laying it out there for what it exactly is. And, there's articles that we can't so much talk about on this venue, but they're out there. There's statements. Back in August, August 2020, we got the message that's going to appear like somebody that was obviously extremely large and prominent in American politics was going to appear that they were gone, but they're not. And so, we were wondering, did that mean that time frame leading up to the event that happened in January, a certain day that the word begins with an I, right? But things take often, as Cindy said, you can't put timelines on things. For one, reality is always shifting. Sure, they want to make you think it's completely set in stone, but it is always shifting. If we could somehow get to the point of having 51% of the world screaming, we're done with the system, it's got to go, and even screaming, hey, Galactic Federation, Pleiadian High Council, you guys, help us. If you had the masses, the majority, saying that, they would help. And that's what we have gotten from them. They would help right out in the open.
Well, it's about them not wanting to trample over our free will. They want us to live our experience. And if enough of us get together and wish for this experience, then that's what we'll get.
But instead, we're taught to give our power away. Not us. It's not our decision to question why. Ours is but to do or die.
Yep.
And meanwhile, make money for certain CABALS's apostrophe in there. And that's what that brother that has been watching the channel for a while and was just not too long ago he left military service. That's what he realized, that it wasn't about what they tell you. It was really about dollar signs and power and in a certain agenda. Leaking Las Vegas Lake Mead plunges to record low amid drought-pocalypse.
Drought-Pocalypse.
The Hoover Dam has just recorded the smallest amount of water inside Lake Mead since the 1930s. We talked about second Dust Bowl coming. This all too, and I've said this so many times, it's an all too perfect storm. This is like, walking into a casino and just pulling the lever once and walking out a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
It's not likely that it's going to happen by chance circumstances. However, if you're told, hey, the machine's going to be fixed to this particular timeline, you got an inside line on things, you pull that little lever, that's a different story. And, we're seeing this all too perfect storm globally. Heavy monsoon rains leave 11 people dead in Mumbai, India. It's every day, the flooding that we're seeing in certain areas. And as we said before, where there's a will, there's a way. There's obviously not a will. And somebody made the point, well, if you could have pipelines bringing oil all over the world, couldn't you have pipelines bringing water where it needed to be? You know, sometimes we just don't think about the simple questions to ask.
Mm-mm.
The simple questions like that. Well, why aren't we taking all the excess water that's, say, you know, in some areas like around New Orleans, gathering it and channeling it and sending it out west?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're about to sign trillions of dollars in infrastructure in. How about combating all the artificial flavoring that we see?
Yeah.
That's the whole point, is there's artificial flavoring. And then, you know, there was a comment too where somebody said, you know, so you guys don't think the sun's doing anything? Well, of course the sun's doing something. There's all the above. This is what we've been screaming for years. You know, there's since we started this. There's artificial flavoring. You know, there's things that are being done by humans and non-human entities as well. There's natural cycles that are in play as well. It's all of the above. Just like there are aliens, there are demons. You know, there are interdimensional beings. There are beings in higher densities. There's angels. There's all of the above.
All of the above, and that's
And,
really important to understand.
and all of the above is going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we see asteroid 2021 LO2 fly past Earth at 0.5 lunar distance, 64th, and we haven't even finished June yet. This is most definitely on a very fast pace. 64th asteroid to fly by within 1 lunar distance this year. And again, are they really all asteroids, or what are they? You know, or are they being sent here? I mean, it wouldn't be too hard if you had technology just to play a little Pong. For you guys, remember Pong? Maybe a little ET Pong and knock things out of the asteroid belt now and then, and watch the little humans scramble.
Yes.
You know, watch them scurry into their caves.
Mm-hmm.
It's that time again to shake the tree. Large now this is talking about Mauna Loa, which is the world's largest active volcano. We've been talking about Kilauea in Hawaii, because Kilauea has been the one that has erupted in recent times, but Mauna Loa is massive, 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 and it could erupt again. And they're saying here, they're talking about a large earthquake could trigger that eruption. And we already are starting to see the effects, the cloud nucleation. You know, how many of you, say here in the South, the mid-central area, Texas through Florida into the Carolinas, how many of you remember this much rain, this much cloud cover?
I know we're getting from people over and over again and again, like this is just not normal.
So an earthquake of about a 6 or greater could actually do it. And that is a real possibility as well. Bright green fireball seen over the U.S. and Florida. There's been a lot to go over Florida. And, you know, another part of that great conversation was the fact that there's an awful lot of military bases that people don't realize that are in Florida as well.
I know there's just so many things we're finding out these days.
Yeah, and it's been really a blessing to get to know so many of you guys out there, as it seems to me like there's so many waking up that have given service to the country, whether in law enforcement or in the military, and really waking up to the bigger picture, and that this is a battle of consciousness going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is all about stopping ascension, waylaying ascension, getting people distracted, the old drama thing. Distraction, that's the first thing. But, you know, in these times, these are real issues to be distracted by, because we could see that they're life-threatening. And of course, Edgar Cayce talked about Pelee in conjunction with activity over in Italy. You know, when we're talking about Etna, Vesuvius, Pelee happening together, then hang on tight, because he said the big ones will be happening just months after. Seismic activity, by the way, under Pelee, this was in Martinique, And I was actually there once. Beautiful, beautiful island, and it was really cool. I was blessed to be able to swim in the water with volcanic vents, and it was so cool to feel the more than hot tub type water bubbling up, but realizing that that's all being driven by magma that could erupt at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure, especially in these times. So seismic activity continues at slightly above background levels at Martinique's Pelee volcano. And since December 2020, the volcano has been under yellow alert. But it is restless. 11 volcanic tectonic quakes detected in a week. Previous week had shown 7 quakes. So, hang on tight, get ready. I'm getting a deja vu again. That's the second time today. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think a lot of people, as Cindy would say, are coming into alignment.
Mm-hmm.
We are really, truly coming online in these times. And this one's new off the coast of Costa Rica here. What I was going to point out is some of these weigh in off the plates, off the edge of the plates. 4.6, Salouet, Canada. And then over here, this is in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a 5.0. And, at some point, Africa is going to split the Kenyan Rift. And, we're going to end up with another massive island out there in the Indian Ocean, unless they rename it. By the way, they've given us another ocean, and it's the ocean around Antarctica. They're just simply calling it the South or Southern Ocean. And if anybody cares, Joe Biden and Boris Johnson signed a new Atlantic Charter. And as it says here, the world may have moved on. This is from RT. So, the illusion there is, hey, it's not the USA and UK running the show anymore. The power is shifting to the fine dining ware country and Rus and others as well. One of the things I love is watching ancient history and the different tribes and stuff. That I've always been drawn to. As I shared with you guys, my mom was a history buff, and I grew up with almanacs, surrounded by almanacs and books on history. And just even as a little child, like 7, 8 years old, I was studying the maps and tribal migrations, and I just was so fascinated by it. So everything is always changing in this globe. There's been nonstop warfare that goes on forever. And as we talked about, you could go back to the Bible, you could go back to the Sumerian texts and see, how it's that divide and conquer that's been going on forever. So we have the JB administration calling on Nigeria to unblock Twitter for the sake of freedom of expression and democracy. Wow. Can we tolerate the hypocrisy that goes on in this world? It's just ridiculous. Everything is so back-assward.
Well, when you're awake, it's super obvious when you're awake. What gets frustrating is those loved ones that we truly do love and they're so close to us. They're just still zonked out completely, but we see it like clear as day. And, there's really no one to share this information with unless you have clicks online or something. It gets frustrating.
It does. So a statement was made by a certain senator from Kentucky today that was a real good one. Look for quotes for that senator from Kentucky, and he's the same guy that his dad actually ran for president before. And I think they are truly more libertarian minded, and the statement just calls it for what it is. It really does. And basically what he's saying is that at the upper echelons, they think everybody else below them are just idiots and are never going to wake up. And I just admire the honesty and candor that comes out of a few people, in the political realm. Texas Governor Abbott is saying next week he will announce plans to build more border wall. And the big take here is that the inevitable breakup The signs are right there. You know, divorce, the papers may not have been drawn up yet, but it's just inevitable. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I think Texas and Florida are going to lead the way. Others will join them. There's going to be a lot joining. As Cindy had said, she saw you saw 5 pieces, and you know, that area between Florida and Texas was all one.
It was all one. That's what I saw.
Yeah. So, you know, here's what we have going on now. It's just inevitable. It's inevitable. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it has to happen. It has to happen in order to, you know, again, it's the consolidation that leads to true lack of freedom of expression and the pursuit of happiness at all. 5 signs America's raging inflation crisis is accelerating. Yeah, we know now it's 2008. So, you know, 2008's numbers are starting to look like what we're in right now. But this is going to dwarf 2008. This is going to probably dwarf 1929. You know, because again, we're at the end of a big cycle. And so, I mean, we could go back, we could look at the Dalton minimums, the Maunder minimums. But what we're talking about here is we're looking more at, like, you know, a 12,000 year cycle, if not even something bigger than that. If we look at the law of one, that 75,000 year cycle, that's more, you know, in line with what we're talking about here. You know, there's a jailbreak coming. You know, many have made the analogy that the Earth is a prison planet. Well, Jubilee is coming. Jailbreak is coming. And what's going on right now is that the handlers are trying to put leg locks, leg clamps, leg vices, chains on as many people's legs as possible so that they can't rise up and ascend. That's the bottom line of what's going on right now. Inflation tends to hit those at the bottom of the economic food chain the hardest, but even at this point, most millionaires say they are concerned about inflation. Yes, and you know, the billionaires as well.
Oh, of course they are.
I am sure they are. They're doing so well, and since the, you know, whole plague upon the land.
Yep.
Biggest banks in the world are now sounding the alarm about the inflation crisis as well. Housing prices continue to soar into the stratosphere, as we have said. And, you know, there will be a flood of houses when the foreclosures come through and all the moratoriums are done with. Used car prices now officially entered absurd territory. And food prices are continuing to surge. And reports of intermittent shortages around the nation. And some perhaps, well, you know, some allotments being put out there as well, and limitations on what you can order, as far as when you're talking about food services and restaurants and things like that. And our good buddy David Devine had called it. He said there's going to be protein rationing by the end of the year, and I think he's right. David's right more than he's wrong, that's for sure. I can't remember him being wrong. So Francis Macron urges G7 to sell gold reserves to fund bailout for Africa. And look closely, like when we're talking about selling things like gold, where is the gold going? Well, you know, seems like Russia and China are hoarding a lot of gold lately. I'm just saying. Seems like they're hoarding a lot of gold. Their reserves seem to be going in a certain direction.
Yep.
And gold does have tangible worth.
Oh, it sure does.
Consciousness and longevity is what we have gotten from the guides. Saudi Arabia says it's no longer an oil-producing country. They have, you know, certain goals. They want to go green, basically. Yeah, they want to have 50% of their energy from renewables by 2030. Wow, Saudi Arabia, who would have thunk that? But everything is changing so fast right now, guys. And here you go. What's in your Happy Meal? It's Gil Bates. Do
Oh,
you want some of your McDonald's signature fries? Been grown on Gil Bates farmland. Well, he's quietly been buying out tons of farmland. You know, he owns so much farmland. Well, the way they say here, the potatoes used to produce McDonald's fries are partially sourced from farms owned by Gil Bates that are so vast they can be seen from space.
Mm.
But that is just one part of the land portfolio of America's largest farmland owner. In under a decade, inside knowledge. And don't people go to jail for insider knowledge, insider trade?
only regular people do.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's
Mhm.
true. There's definitely,
There's some that they don't, that doesn't apply to them.
you know, some have said that, oh, he's a certain type of feller, of a particular rocky sort, if you know what I mean, as far as the reality of his lineage. Would make a lot of sense. It'd make a lot of sense as we know that there's countries in this world. Sure. There's more power in corporations than countries. And the corporations are controlled by certain lineages. Those lineages have direct ties to certain bloodlines, go back to everything being handed down from on high when the quote unquote gods apparently disappeared. Because there were times when people saw the gods, quote unquote. And again, none of these beings are God. None of them are the real source. They're just beings with higher tech. But if we look to the histories that were supposed to be taken literal, they were here amongst humans. And this is something that's global. As somebody made the astute comment before, if anybody looks historically at the different mythologies around the world, there is absolutely no way that you can come up and think that we have never been visited by beings with higher tech than us. It's just overwhelming, the amount of evidence. So in under a decade, him and his ex-wife have quietly acquired nearly 109,000 hectares of farmland, roughly the size of Hong Kong, across 18 states in the U.S., according to data gathered by trade publication The Land Report. So yeah, he's got a lot of land up in Washington State. It was interesting too. I saw that the number one state he had most farmland in is the one that was hammered by the record number of hurricanes, Louisiana. Interesting. But then when we look to the bigger cycles and what was actually growable land in the last ice age, there was just basically strips along the coast from Texas to Florida. Everything gets to be pretty unusable. So it was really curious because I don't think people think Louisiana as the heartland of America or like a major farmland first and foremost. Louisiana, you think, alligators, crawfish, shrimp, that type of thing.
Yep, seafood.
But everything is changing, and they know what weather's coming. Oh boy, do they know.
Oh yeah.
And so there was mysterious skyquakes that were going on in San Diego, and as it turns out, there are strong indications that a mysterious boom heard there was from supersonic aircraft on training missions off the coast. There's a lot of interesting stuff off the coast of Southern California, including some formations that look like, well, it simply look like they were bases of some sort, and perhaps actually entrances into inner Earth as well. And there's been a lot of interesting UFOs that have been seen over in that area as well. So 8:20 p.m. local time, June 8th, you had a skyquake, but military exercises were underway as well. Probably could be testing some of our planes and things that we haven't quite seen yet.
Yep.
Or maybe we have. And remember that movie, The Battle for LA or Battle of LA? Messages from outer space, more than 500 new mysterious alien radio signals detected in 1 year. These fast radio bursts that they have no explanation for. apparently are getting to be more numerous.
Mm-hmm.
Is the ET clamoring about, hey guys, it's time for that invasion?
I know, they're like, knock, 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 we're here now.
Yeah, and then of course we have the whole Project Bluebeam and everybody, thinking there's going to be a fake alien invasion. Perhaps that's actually mainstream now. I think that whole line of thinking has actually become mainstream, that we're anticipating a fake alien invasion.
Right.
Of course, meanwhile, we have humans working on Mars with reptilians and reptilian hybrids. Somebody else had mentioned that they saw a Naughty Beaver video where he was interviewing somebody, and we were just talking about some of the things that were covered, and we haven't seen it yet ourselves. But it was interesting because it all seemed like stuff that we've already gotten from the guides, and that Cindy has remote viewed.
Yeah, and we don't watch. Other people ask us, oh, so and so, you watch this? No, we don't have time, but we're coming up with the same information, so we're tapping into a certain stream of information that's rather strong.
Yeah, truly, the only time we ever have is when we're on the road driving.
Yep.
Because if we're not driving, then I'm looking at our schedule. Usually there's 7-8 people on board, every hour, on the hour. And then we try to get videos in. And lately we've only been able to get one video in a day. And, that has been a challenge, which it's a blessing because we're here to educate and we're also here to help others heal. And so we take very, very high priority in helping people that reach out to us as far as energy work, as far as counseling, developing their own abilities, working through Kundalini issues, and helping with them opening up their third eye and their abilities as well. That's a major, major part of our work here on the planet. So it really leaves us, we don't have time to watch much, really. Mm-hmm. And then when we do watch stuff, it's usually more like stuff that we feel is stuff that we're going to need to utilize new skills, such as, gardening, homesteading, planting, things along those lines for the most part, things that we need to improve our knowledge base on. Mm-hmm. So, we really, that's kind of like what we focus on. And then we will not miss our spiritual practice. So, that's a minimum of an hour a day minimum, and preferably 2 or 3 hours of meditation, mantras, Qigong, and also physical exercise, which has been lacking in the camper. So, we're going to be prioritizing that as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And there's so much to talk about, guys. This is crazy. This woman in Florida swears she saw a baby dinosaur running through her backyard. And there is a link here for a video with it when it does reload. Internet's been extremely bizarre. It does look like a little raptor. It looks like a baby raptor running through a yard. Maybe it's a labradoodle. I don't know. Doesn't look like one. Mm-hmm. Honestly, when you look at it, it looks like a baby raptor.
Absolutely. Go check this one out. It's a good one. I'm surprised they have it running again because I saw it maybe a month ago. And here it is again. So it's really making a splash.
Yeah, and maybe this is actually the second time that it's come up. The world is crazy, though. As we've shared with you guys, too, a lot of sightings of things like chupacabras and Sasquatch and, dogmen, things like that, they're real. They are very, very real. And some of the stuff is actually, again, related to ETs. Also related to things escaping and or being released from these deep underground military bases where it really is like the island of Dr. Moreau, for you guys that remember that old school movie. It really is. There's so much going on with DNA experimentation. Look at what we talk about in the modern abduction phenomenon. How many times people are examined, things like their fluids are taken. They're checking for DNA. When we look at World War II, what happened with Joseph Mengele? They were playing with DNA. They're doing all sorts of experimentation on people. How about we look to Genesis 6 and the hybrids and stuff? Maybe when we look at it, it's not necessarily that these guys were very lusty, but that could be part of it. And then again, if they are able to breed with humans, then obviously they're physical. They're able to lower the vibrational rate at least from, say, 4th density to 3rd density and manifest a physical body and or take over a person in a sort of possession and create hybrids. It's all about experimentation. There's never been a time when there hasn't been experimentation going on this planet.
I know, we're one big petri dish.
We are, and it's ongoing. So very interesting. Who knows? Maybe this actually is some sort of baby dinosaur out and about, or maybe it's just, one of the Draco's kids got loose.
He's escaping from the petri dish.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you found this interesting and entertaining, do a thumbs up to help support the channel. Make sure you are subscribed with the bell click, so hopefully we'll get some notifications. And I noticed too, looking at some of the analytics, there's certain topics that they don't like being covered, and they won't simply recommend the video, because you could see that almost all your regular people are watching a certain video. Then if you talk about something that they're more okay with mainstream as like your lead-in, that will get recommended. But if you're talking about something outright that they don't want being talking about, then you won't get any recommendations.
Oh, you mean something like gold mining and stuff like that?
Yeah, and the earliest human remains being found in those gold mines.
Gotcha. I understand.
But again, we are spiritual beings. We are eternal. That's just our nature. We're consciousness, energy. Can't be created or destroyed. We just are. Body is a vehicle. And we are in a time period where that body is going to change, and change in a positive direction. You're getting an upgrade. Kind of look at it like you've been driving some little junker car, and all of a sudden you're going to have a Maserati.
There you go.
As always, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.